the blue side Echo ban, but the Rumble ban in particular, I mean, yeah, it's Acorn, but like I said, it's really Flame that's had the standout performance there. It should be noted that EDG's, what's what I'm going to use, their identity as a team changes drastically when they have Amazing J and Baimei rotating in for Koro and Pawn.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk a bit more as we go through the draft about how that does affect the matchup in the team, but Cassidy, they're going to be the last ban for EDG. Good ban up against Godby, but that man has so many champions in the mid lane. 2 mid lane bans also thrown by LGD against Baimei. His 2 recently played champions in Victor and Azir going out, so maybe a 3rd mid lane ban here.
They're targeting Baimei's champion pool really hard. He hasn't played a lot of champions. I don't know if he's going to do his fall back into Cassiopeia, but that was pretty much his champion pool. Was Victor, Cassie, Victor. Or Victor, who did I miss? Azir, there we go. I was like, Victor, Cassie, Victor, what? Hello?
Azir's definitely been, I think, his best champion, so I do like that. But EDG, Rek'Sai actually banned away from Clearlove. We talk about how much Clearlove loves that champion and how important Rek'Sai is.
Oh, no.
To certain junglers in the LPL, especially likes of Clearlove. Consider the first pick Ryze. They take the Gragas instead. But not giving Ryze to a player like Amazing J is a bit surprising to me.
Wow, there were so many priority picks. As again, we now see the Alistar being hovered over for PYL, and he is devastating on that champion, but they decide to prioritize Gragas, and that's another pick that I didn't even notice, the Kalista. This is pretty much perma-banned against LGD. Imp was one of the first AD carries in the LPL to debut that champion, had a bit of a slow start, has done some very strange things with his build, but has really kind of defined himself as a big Kalista player and someone you have to be afraid of.
And that's the cool thing about these two teams, is they've got such star-studded rosters that the picks that are just priority, like you have to add special target bans there on top as well because of how good these players are. Ryze and Kalista, though, is not a poor start to a draft for LGD.
That is a disgusting start to a draft. Wow. Nautilus and Alistar are both still available, so either of the support routes, I mean, PYL is getting a power pick no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, Nautilus, they might even consider it. They do have a plan for Kalista, you have to think. You can see Aaron there over Clearlove's shoulder, making sure they get the right champion. I like the Alistar pick. Maker's a fantastic support player, very aggressive and a great roamer, so I do like that champion going into his hands. He's, of course, a big Annie player classically in spring, and has brought it out a couple times in summer as well. But Deft, let's switch it up. It's going to be Nautilus instead for a bit more flexibility, but I love the Deft Urgot.
I like this much better just because you have the depth charge and so much CC on Nautilus's kit to really lock down Kalista, because this second rotation from EDG is targeted directly at Imp. Yep. You have the Urgot, which is traditionally a hard counter to Kalista, because obviously her martial pose will mean nothing to the long range if Urgot locks onto you. And then likewise, I mean, Alistar, he can get onto the back of Kalista, but then she's going to start hopping away from him. Whereas Nautilus, you know, he has the stagger on his auto attack, he has the slow on the Riptide, the depth charge, just a lot more options.
Yeah, I mean, God forbid you eat a hook there as well. Like
the dredge line.
So much CC. But yeah, you're right. 2 high-impact, hard CC ultimates that you do not have to skill shot to hit. Kalista's going to have a work cut out here as LGD go back to Sejuani for TBQ, and of course they give PYL Alistar.
Typically, this tells me that LGD is going to look for a lane swap. Again, they were one of the other LPL teams that really started accepting the lane swap meta just to hide their jungler. If you're going to point at the star-studded roster and say who's kind of the weakest link, it is going to be TBQ for LGD, but they do a fantastic job lane swapping, protecting, and hiding Sejuani's very fragile early clear.
They do, and it's LGD are just across the board, their players excel in that sort of situation. Although EDG, not bad in the lane swap either, but we'll see how these things shake out. EDG, considering their last few picks here as well, going to keep it very tanky. That is the Cassio picked up for Baimei, but Amazing J is going to get Maokai here. So I'm going to say 1.5 threat comp for EDG.
That's the problem with Urgot compositions for me, is I feel like you have to run a triple threat just because he is so low damage. That said, look at how tanky that line is, especially for Cassiopeia late game. You do have a hyper carry option. And again, EDG's composition is entirely sacrificed to killing Imp. Maokai jumping to the back line, Urgot to get a hold of her, Nautilus, Gragas, I mean, so much just for Imp. That said, I really like Maokai as a counter to Ryze as well. Obviously, in the 1v1 lane matchup, that's not going to be fun. But in overall, in big team fights, 5v5s, Maokai's really going to slow down a lot of that AoE damage.
Yeah, and Godby, last pick, Varus here for LGD. This has been his big pick recently for the LGD mid laner. Varus into Cassiopeia, probably not as bad as the Azir matchup, but just fine here for Varus.
I really feel like LGD destroyed EDG in this draft. They have multiple threats across the board. They have shown that they have a clear-cut plan on how to keep Sejuani safe, to ramp her up into a level 6 where she can have gank threat and pressure. You talked about how Varus is a soft counter to control mages like Cassiopeia, like Azir in that mid lane, and Godvi has shown a disgusting Varus in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, he's just insane in almost any matchup. As we're going to go through them, starting at the top, Amazing J, their sub, playing against Akon. That's Malco versus Ryze. Bit tricky there, potentially. Cleared up on the Gragas with the Rek'Sai ban. Does leave TBQ with the Sejuani. But the mid lane matchups, maybe where all the fireworks are going to be. Bamey's Cassio versus Godby's counter pick of the Varus. And Godby said it himself, I am the best mid laner in China.
Oh, yeah, and he can definitely back it up on his Varus performance. It's like a targetable ability on his Q.
Yeah, apparently there is Def going to take the Urgot into Imp's Kalista and make her with the Nautilus and PYL's Alistar, trying to really shut down Imp. We've seen EDG do this before with the hyper tanky comps, but it is very execution heavy.
Again, and it's all about the fact that it's a response to the Kalista pickup from Imp. So obviously they have a very clear-cut plan. If you think back to MSI, how did they beat SKT? They had a set composition for Faker's LeBlanc, and it's almost a very same element here.
It is indeed. We'll see how it goes out as we are going to get onto the rift for game number 1. And welcome onto the rift for our last best of 2 of the evening. And it's 2 top teams here in the LPL. EDG taking on LGD, their first rematch since the grand finals of spring.
And we haven't really talked about how those finals went, but spoiler alert, it was a quick and decisive 3-0 by EDG.
Nice.
Yep. And I also wanted to kind of save this one until we were into the game. EDG and LGD historically are 20-6 to EDG.
Yeah, but that is stretching back a long way, of course, during EDG's reign of dominance. Last year was where they were particularly dominant. LGD, very different team back then, so a little closer here, of course. Thanks for trolling everyone. It was not a 3-0 in that grand final.
What? Wasn't it?
Was
No, it was a
3-2.
5-game. Oh, man.
Yeah.
I was thinking OMG.
You were. No, that was very different.
Fumbled.
Yep, a little bit there as we do move through. You can see the teams setting things up, trying to get some vision around the area. And just again, lots of neutral vision here. Maybe just sort of looking to see what he can see, but pretty much a 5-point for both teams.
Man, I'm upset.
Yep. It's what? Yeah, it was very close. I really thought you were trolling.
Oh, no.
I gave you all the credit.
I just spaced. I need more coffee.
Everyone needs more coffee. It's EDG and are going to join into the top side with Mako and Deft. Deft loves to lane swap with his Urgot.
Yeah. Now, the thing about this is, yeah, Urgot is a hard counter to Kalista because obviously you can lock onto her, you have the suppression, you have a lot of tools to deal with it. But the problem is Urgot doesn't get to be oppressive and controlling in lane until he starts to itemize up for it, typically through a tier. So the thing is if you lane swap in Urgot, you're fine to do that. You get your tier, you have your ability to spam, and then you can swap back into Kalista and start being that really big harass tool against her.
Yeah, and Deft knows this better than anyone. Used to start Flask on his Urgot as well, just to make sure that he had enough to get through the early lane swap here, and then would come back down and say, yeah, I have a recharge on my Flask, and now maybe a longsword or a bit more AD on my tier, and good to go here. But Imp is going to be on the bottom side. EDG, presumably with the lane swap on the top side, get the matchups they want as Akon actually had to vacate the top lane.
Again, though, I just, you said it before that Deft likes to swap his Urgot early before he goes back into the 2v2. But again, this just really protects and shores up TBQ and allows him to get his first initial. What are you doing, Acor?
He's taking some little Sentinelings.
He wants the Sentinels.
Yeah, I mean, he knows that. He actually didn't start with TBQ. That was the problem. LGD got all neutral vision. EDG lane swapped the Urgot on them, and all of a sudden Akon's like, oh, I can't do anything. So finally has his jungler join him, but Akon is well behind in the jungle follow. Yeah,
that's pretty unfortunate. He got one Sentinel to himself.
He did. Stole all of TBQ's delicious experiences. They're going to smite that away. Akon is still level 1, by the way. And Amazing J is already level 2. In fact, 2 and a bit, about 2 1/3.
They are starting to make the rotation up into the top side. We'll see if they look for a 4-0 fast push.
Yeah, looks like it. I mean, the classic Urgot fast push, not something we usually associate with the champion, but
not at all.
Never a bad idea to try and take a tower, especially in this sort of situation. I mean, Imp is pushing down as well. We really have seen just a break away from people freezing lanes and lane swaps.
Yeah, they're starting to get more creative, especially because you have a lot more power picks and the top laner is becoming a lot more dominant in this current meta, especially against Ryze. It's more about denying Ryze the EXP and the gold than it is really securing the tower and the the safety for your own AD carry.
Yeah, and you can see EDG do actually back away there with their jungler and top laner, so not going to get too overexcited to push there. Just going to try and let it naturally happen and keep the other resources moving around the map. But an Urgot with a longsword, even though he's an Urgot, not doing a bad job here with Mako pushing down the turret.
That said, because LGD have the numbers advantage on the bottom side of the map, they're going to go ahead and pull this dragon. This is a pretty textbook. As I say that, they're like, nope, never mind.
Yep, I mean, POL's like, guys, we're doing the dragon. Team's like, no, not today. Apparently not listening to their shot call. They did start the dragon, but deciding that with Clearlove and Mako leaving the top lane, maybe it was a bit too dangerous.
I don't know. They have Kalista on the bottom side of the map as well. So, I mean, obviously you want to keep Imp getting as much solo EXP and farm as possible, but you have so much objective control as far as monster objectives down there with the Rind.
Yeah, oh, I agree, but LGD, for whatever reason, deciding not to, at least this time, as Amazing J's hit level 3. He's going to try and keep this tower as healthy as possible, but Mako's going to join him to form a very, very odd-looking duo lane.
Finally, though, Acorn burns his teleport, gets up into that top lane, and immediately gets punched in the face by Deft.
Yeah, immediately gets Urgoted there by Deft, who does have a couple potions. A mana one in particular going to help him in this 1v1. Acorn will hopefully start to pick up a bit more CS. Does have some early items, but they're mostly just for additional mana. And you can see Acorn 3 levels down here. This is where Urgot shines. When he's got those levels early, he's able to bully you with his E and Q.
And it's really important for Urgot to look for that longsword. You kind of covered it early as opposed to the Doran's Blade, so he can pick up that mana pot, because it's so key to be able to spam those abilities to really have your threat.
Yeah, as I said, used to start Flask, doesn't anymore, but same sort of theory there as Clearlove and TBQ going to have a bit of a tete-a-tete there in the jungle, but nothing really coming of that. Both level 3, so farming up relatively well as Clearlove looks for the Scuttle Crab, but Acorn collapsing level 4 now with good passive stacks there on the rise.
Just booking it towards him, but meanwhile, mid lane.
Bamey, good flash there, but TBQ, nice pressure as Godfrey's gone back. He's gotten his tier. Bamey's actually had a really good job in this lane so far on Cassio, but without a flash, Cassio is incredibly vulnerable.
Bamey doing a good job in CS so far, 40 to 26, so I'm glad that you pointed that out. Now, if you guys haven't seen mid lane Varus, this is how it works. It works very much like Jace, and it's going to itemize in a very similar way as well. You're going to see a tier into Mirror Mana, Brutalizer, CDR. It's really about empowering that Q. Last Whisper will fit in there at some point. And he just sits back, he Qs, and he Qs every 3 seconds.
Yep, and just keep going here, and you get great poke down, like you said, like the Jace, good seeds, good poke. Great mid-game power of a Bamey level 6. Hits it before Godby, who was forced back early. And the Crystalline Flask Cassiopeia doing work here. I actually really like that item. Knowing
that he's going to be taking a lot of early auto-attack trades, so he brings the regen and the sustain to sit in that level. And especially because we are on live patch 5.11. So Cassio has seen some recent tweaks to her early game, her sustain in particular.
Probably a good thing there on that one, as Cassio, a little silly there in the land at times, as Clearlove coming to the top side trying to cut off Acorn, but Acorn's already booked it back home. Going to charge up his tier, which is the first item he finishes up, but Deft, level 6 now, just happily soaking up solo farm and experience.
Ah, the classic double tier comp.
Oh, that's right. We do have a double tier comp, but I don't think this one's as bad as other double tier comps.
Varus is going to have a really nice mid-game power spike.
Good pulverized by PYL as he does prevent Mako from going in after the Night Hook landed there onto Imp, but the double melee champions in the bottom lane having trouble keeping the tower alive by the looks of things.
I wonder why.
Well, Froskurin, why don't you tell us why?
Double melee versus range melee, that's not going to be fun.
Is that it?
That was it.
Professional.
That's my professional opinion.
Okay, well, definitely going to pull some creeps. Clearlove actually maybe looking for a dive, but spots TVQ instead. Teleport actually coming through. Amazing J going to consider a dive here. They want this tower right now.
This is so scary. Okay, they're not going to dive the tower.
Oh, good flash from Acorn, gets out, but instead they'll force pressure off the tower. Look to take it away. Creep Wave's going to meet them. Their cannon creep's ready to go, so EDG going to get the first tower of the game.
Oh, okay, I see what it is. I was initially thinking, why was LGD so scared right there? 3v2, and it's a Sejuani and a Ryze onto that tower. It's because they didn't have eyes on Mako, so they didn't know if there was another person coming to dive that tower, so they wisely back up. So you can see Mako on the bottom side hiding in Fog of War in that brush.
Yeah, smart stuff there, but Imp will get some free time along with the turret and is able to take that away. So 2 turrets fall, 1 apiece here for the teams, and as we look up, gold lead slight there for EDG, leading by 600 gold with 8 minutes in.
PYL?
He's roaming. He actually has not been as unlocked on Alistar than I thought. He spent a lot of time sort of sitting with Imp in that lane.
very different styles of itemization. So we talked about how kind of the gold distribution in LPL specifically as a region is much more catered towards the supports than pretty much the average of the other regions. And it's because you have a lot of roaming supports that get involved and are able to snowball their own gold, Mako and PYL in particular. Mako likes to do this thing where it's almost old school Mata, where he goes Moby Boots into a Ruby Sightstone because obviously he doesn't want to go back as much. He wants to spend more time out onto the field, setting down wards, picking them up, and moving around the map in rotations. Whereas PYL decided to front load his with the Sightstone as opposed to having mobility boots. So again, a little bit curious because he is on Alistar. He's on a champion that could so very easily roam, but he doesn't have a lot of kill threat and options around his map with the lane swap and with having Varus as his mid laner as opposed to someone with, you know, more burst or more CC.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense there. It's amazing J, level 6 on the top side. We'll be joined by Imp and Akon, who's rotated in with actually the makings of a Blade of the Ruin King first.
He does
but looking to try and take down the tower. Yeah, you talked about it. Imp does like to mix it up with his Kalista builds.
And in frankness, when you see the BT rush on Kalista, which has been really popularized, it's usually against a burst mage like LeBlanc as a defensive option. But Imp, he has, you know, many different variations of his Kalista builds, but a Bork first is a pretty common one.
Yeah, Blade is cool. It sort of feels like if you combine BT and Runins together to make sort of a one item that wasn't as powerful as both.
And obviously attack speed is huge for Kalista as far as not just her damage output with the Ren, but also her mobility and her own safety.
Yeah, makes sense as Deft trying to cut down this tower, but not going to happen. EDG instead up for a dragon, but the teleport down prompts EDG to try and dive, but TBQ's level 6. He's going to go in the ult, misses though. Mako's already in the backline on top of Akon. Dev going to come in, flashes in there, ulties Akon back in. Mako is low, goes down actually to the rise, but TBQ going to fall soon as well. Tries to flash out, might have just bought enough space, never mind. Locked on there as Def takes him out and they'll get the tower as well.
Def so aggressive, flashing forward, getting the suppression. And yeah, we talked about how Urgot is a great counter pick to Kalista, able to lock onto her so her passive doesn't mean as much, but especially against someone like Ryze, through the duration of that suppression, think of it as almost a pseudo-exhaust and slowing down his fast and furious spell rotation.
Yeah, and we saw that there, just getting onto Akon, who did get first blood, I believe, so we'll go back and get a catalyst. His build will look nice here. Godvy's blue buff that he got a couple of minutes ago wears up there as well, and Bamey continuing to stay ahead here in this lane. I am super impressed by this.
Bamey had a great reputation back in Korea. There was a lot of people who said, you know, he's going to be as good as Faker at some point. And obviously, it never came to fruition when he was in LSPL, but he's really started to pick up steam on EDG, and I'll have to double check. I think he might still have a 100% win rate when he is on that team.
We'll have to see. Here's the dragon. Going to go over to LGD. Pretty easy once Kalista starts it up to make sure it's yours, but I think I have to say the same thing about Bamey. I've been quite impressed with him. They've been playing him a lot as well. And that's the thing. If EDG already have Pawn, he's a world champion and a great player, why not have two great Korean mid laners?
And the nice thing is it makes sense that you would rotate in between their two different styles because Bamey has, like we said, his champion pool is relatively small. It's mostly consisted of control mages, so he fits very well into the meta. Whereas Pawn, he plays a little bit of everything. I think he's played a total of 21 unique champions this year. But it's very crazy and it's very different.
I believe Pawn, from Spring at least, is second on unique champions played in the mid lane. Can you guess who the first is?
I would guess Faker.
In LPL.
Oh, Godvy.
Yes, it is Godvy. In LPL, it's Godvy. I think worldwide it is probably Faker. But Godvy has played just a couple more than Pong, which is impressive. Usually when these two play, it's really crazy with the picks. But instead we have Bamey, who, hey, maybe a bit more narrow on the champ pool, but been very consistent so far.
And the meta very much favors him again as EDG now turned towards this top tier tower.
Akon's popped his passive, but that's just for wave clear. They're good wave clear by the Rise, though. All that early mana able to chow down some waves, but Imp continuing to push as well. LGD doing what they do best. Play around the map while EDG are constantly looking for fights.
Yeah, trying to be on the aggressive. And again, talking about kind of the composition, LGD, or excuse me, EDG are kind of in their happy place right now because, you know, the Urgot got going, has the Muramana. They're going to find a little bit more power spikes when their stacking items are finally full and online. Obviously with that Archangel staff, excuse me, coffee. I can't articulate.
Everyone needs coffee, man. It's Deft. farming up in the mid lane, trying to match Imp, but Imp's going to rotate into the mid lane. Bamey pressuring a bit. Clearlove off in the wings as well. TBQ looks for an ulti, doesn't throw a good fake. Amazing Days here. Great ulti there by Bamey. Gets out of the first one with a cleanse though, and Amazing Days already gotten the kill onto Sejuani. Ult's Godby away. Clearlove coming through. Imp though going to tear through that as Godby gets a kill. Now Mako going to join in, gets PYL, who's ulti's about to wear off, but a good snipe there by Godby in the back takes out Bamey. Mako's going to get hopped on, and he's absolutely dead as Varus gets a triple. Imp flashes forward for Deft. Going to try and secure another one, and Godby may just get 4 kills. Flashes in for it. Going to try and take it out. Just misses, though. Deft. Very well played.
Godby is frustrated right now. He thought he had the quadra right there, but this is what we were talking about. That Varus Q, that's a skill shot. On Godby, it looks like a targetable ability. He is so good at hitting those, and Bamey took one straight to the face in the back half of that fight.
Yeah, he thought he was safe, but was not at all with the range of that Varus poke. And LGD pick themselves up a nice bunch of kills, a tower in the mid lane, and most importantly, the gold lead here. Now 1,200 gold ahead.
Now the thing that I was talking about before that fight broke out is, yes, EDG do have some power spikes down the road when their items start to stack up and go online. Obviously, Cassiopeia is going to be a late game hyper threat, and they're very tanky. But I still feel like LGD got the superior draft here, and just the quantity and the type of threats that they got across the map. We are going to see a replay there. Oh, I feel like he was trying to chain CC before TBQ got the Glacial Prison off with the Cassiopeia, but just really unfortunate that lands on anyway, and Bamey has to burn so many of his repositions, his flash, to kind of put himself back in safety.
We do have another fight though breaking out. Clearlove in trouble as PYL goes down to Bamey. Imp hungry for a kill, but does not find it. An Acorn does have his teleport, but he's not here yet. Amazing J's already potted in. They found Imp. A great ult from Clearlove gives Amazing J the kill. And EDG exploding and answer back with 2 kills of their own.
Ramping up this game so quickly.
Deft is ulti. What?
What?
No,
he's got QSS.
You can't cleanse.
Yeah.
No, that's not how that works.
How did he get it?
I don't know.
Did he cancel?
Def might
Can
have
you cancel?
Urgot's ulti is really weird. So I'll tell you, I don't know what happened, but I can tell you how it works.
You can't cleanse it. You only can QSS it because it's a suppression. He doesn't have QSS. No one's got a Crucible.
So again, for some reason I know this. I can tell you how Urgot's ultimate works. So you channel suppression for a second, and then the ulti goes off. So if you actually want to QSS Urgot's ulti, you have to do it in the initial duration where you get locked up, in that 1 second suppression, before he swaps you. Because once the game decides that you're getting swapped, there's nothing you can do because you're being repositioned. That's how the ultimate works. I have no idea how Godby got out of it, but that is how Urgot's ultimate works. So I think Def might have just cancelled it there. That was interesting to look at.
Huh.
That's why Urgot's ulti is so hard to get out of, because it's a 1 second suppression that you can only QSS, and then you're done after that. You can't do anything if you miss the window. Today you learned.
Today I learned.
For some reason, I know how Urgot's ulti works. I don't know why. Something I learned long ago. Here is
I'm still trying to figure that one out. I was like, there's got to be a Crucible. It's got to be here somewhere.
Unfortunately, I don't think Crucible helps you either.
I'd have to double check on Urgot.
All right. Well, you know what? We can save that one for later archive and see if we can figure out why Godby lived. But he did live. Important to note.
He got away.
Def did not get the kill, but EDG, nice team fight to answer back, means they slim that gold lead right back down to about 600 gold apiece and 45 seconds left. We're going to have a dragon once more.
And again, just so many damage threats coming out of LGD. They've got a lot of options, as well as late game hyper carries as well in the form of that Rise. And with kind of the slowing down of this game, EDG are doing their best to try to ramp everything up, and LGD are just trying to stay away from or find fights that are beneficial. Acorn has completely reversed the power trend of the top lane.
Ooh, PYL finding a good headbutt. Pulverize. Clearlove going to get CC for quite a while. Has to burn his ulti to try and live. Bates Call there's going to secure this one by the looks of things. Clearlove is dead to Imp. Amazing J's going to dive in on top of 3 people though, and Baby's going to try and line it up. Great headbutt from PYL. Amazing J's already dead, and Def, he's firing in shots trying to get a kill. TBQ, good 2-man ulti, but Def snipes him away before flashing out. Mako is somehow still alive, but LGD get that win 2 for 1.
They find a pick, and this will surely mean the dragon. With Clearlove down and the smite not available, so LGD just really starting to slip into control here.
And this is something we've seen a lot from EDG. I would say consistency across here, though. Deft is trying to steal it. Going in,
if he got that, I would be super impressed.
I don't know if you can ever get an objective off of Callisto. I mean, that's part of the reason she's so strong, right? Is that her neutral control for an AD carry is just
she also has
unprecedented.
a 2-item power spike as opposed to a 3-item power spike on hyper scaling versus like a Trinity Force AD carry, so she's very cost efficient for the damage that she'll output. The thing that I wanted to talk about, because I keep kind of going back between these two different compositions, EDG are slumping. I honestly feel like a big part of that is their draft phase. Now, this composition was entirely built around the fact that Imp was going to go into that Kalista, and yeah, EDG did show success with this kind of strategy at MSI against SKT, but it doesn't seem to be working here. They do have, again, late game answers in the threat of Bamey and his Cassiopeia, so we'll see if they're able to kind of turn this one around, but slowly and surely, LGD are just starting to kind of take control and run away with this game. Yeah,
1,000 gold up here, and Imp has that cost-efficient 2-item build now completed. Blade of the Ruin King Hurricane here for Imp. It's a very Imp sort of build.
Very kite-heavy.
Yep.
Rend-focused.
Makes sense. Imp's positioning's pretty good around team fights. His Kalista, like you said, just sort of plays unlike any other in the world. He's just all about weaving in and out of fights, being aggressive where he can, and then pulling the trigger and getting the reset. It actually reminds me a lot of his Ultra Stunner play.
No, I actually agree with that.
It's amazing, Jay. You can see farming things away, sliding around the map. Somehow managed to, I think, twisted advance through the ground. That was pretty cool. But instead going to farm his way up. Does have a right to score, so nice and cost efficient if EDG do want to look to fight here. The 1,000 gold's not that much, but maybe it's the Dragons that they have to worry about. And this has, again, been a consistent thing for EDG in wins and losses. Their Dragon control is historically, at least in 2015, quite poor.
Yep, I agree with that, which is curious because Clearlove's such a big Nunu player and he's found so much success on that champion, and obviously the big thing is Nunu has fantastic objective control, but Deft has never really been a Kalista player. He shows it, but it's not his big priority champion. There's so many threats on LGD's composition, Ryze, Kalista, Godby on his Varus, that building a comp just for Kalista seems to be the wrong decision here.
Well, called it execution heavy in the draft. We'll see if EDG can execute with their two substitutes. I think it's a big ask here from Amazing J and Bamey to really pull off something like this, but EDG, they're at least going to try it, and again, they've been mixing it up a lot recently, and it's part of the reason they've been losing, but I think makes sense. So a third of the way through the season, maybe at this point, definitely not even halfway, and at that point, why not mix things up? As you see, Godby gets himself level 12 and a blue buff.
Yeah, and we can kind of touch on the changes of style that EDG go through when they do have Bamey and they have Amazing J in their roster. And the thing that's really curious for me right now is that Amazing J picked up the Maokai. Not that he can't play it, it's just not a very Amazing J-esque style of champion. He's very much more about kind of the Fizz top, the Hecarim top, doing that crazy split push pressure, as opposed to a big true 5v5, which is what this composition really asks him to do.
Yeah, and again, Koro is the team fighting top laner, right? That's what he's known for. He's Maokai and Nara especially, legendary champions. But we'll see what EDG get done here. Bamey on the Cassio is probably the shining light of his EDG composition. Still ahead of Godby here by 25 CS, but we talked about it already. Godby's pretty much good as far as builds go.
Bamey is the easy Hoon to Pawns faker.
Sure. I think it's actually a very reasonable comparison.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much spot on what it is. He's the control mage.
Well, Godby here, good poke, finds Clearlove for a good chunk of damage again. Got the blue buff. LGD looks, by the looks of things, are ready to siege.
Oh, wow, that damage.
It's big. I mean, this is the thing about Varus. He gets to the point, he's nice and cost efficient. Usually about 25 minutes in or under.
This is where he shines, yeah. Because he is so cost efficient. I'm glad that you brought that up. The Last Whisper, the Miramana, the Brutalizer, the CDR boots. It's about getting as many rotations through your queue as possible. Think of him like Jace, think of him like Nidalee, like Xerath.
Yep, very similar style of champion. I think Jace has been the most apt and common comparison. So Godby with the blue buff just going away. And Clearlove's like, yeah, I don't want any of this at all. And I'm the tank of this team.
The big issue is that you have to go and you have to hard engage. And they have tools like that should Amazing J use a teleport home guard. But their actual reach is pretty small. A lot of mid-range champions.
Yeah, TBQ actually gets the big raptor there as well. So a win there as well as LGD, who's continuing to run EDG around the map, using Godby as something in the mid lane they can pivot around by letting him pressure. Imp, him having a field day on the bottom side. He's 60 CS ahead of Deft.
Yep.
That's a lot.
Imp does this all the time, though. He's able to acquire CS leads very much like, oh, hold on, teleport.
Yep, teleport coming in. Actually, both answer TBQ. Missed his ulti, but a big Fate's Call going to knock them all up. Bamey gets the first kill onto Akon. They're going to chase down Imp, but a nice chain of corruption going to lock them all up as Amazing J. Imp flashes forward to get the kill. Gets dredgeland there by Mako, but Bamey, he's got nothing left here. A triple kill for Imp. Gonna make it. Oh my god, that Sonya was great. but it's still going to be a snipe from GodV. The ace completed by LGD.
What an amazing flank from LGD. And again, EDG, their composition, they don't really have any tools to start a team fight because they're so mid-range. They don't have the Sivir, they don't have the Hecarim, things like that. And LGD just collapsed on them and ripped them apart with so many different damage threats.
Yeah, Baron is now well and truly dead. Kalista again, once she starts an objective, almost always finishes it. It's very rare not to. TBQ almost might even die. I think he smited early just to get some health back, but Im's ready there with the rend, although TBQ actually got it.
We're going to see the replay right there. So it was a really nice flash from Deft, actually, but he's forced out of the fight. He's not able to burn any of that Urgot power on Kalista, which just allows Imp to sit here and free hit into the back line. That's the power of the Rend build, the Bork Hurricane. Just so many rotations destroying EDG's tank line.
And this was great. GodV at the end, dead.
Scumbag GodV takes it away from him.
Takes the Quadra away, but Acorn now finding Clearlove. Proxy's passive. Going to try and throw out the W's, but Clearlove will get himself away. Dragon back up here. That'll be LGD's third. Starting to get a little bit out of control here as this game for EDG. 6K down. LGD with a nice gold lead, the kill lead, the turret lead, and now the Dragon lead. 3-0 as Kalista gets another one. It's starting to get really hard, especially for Def, because he's now looking at 2 QSSs across from him.
EDG don't have a lot of options for winning this game at this point. They got very heavily outdrafted. They're effectively looking for a misplay from LGD. When you're relying on the enemy team to misplay for your victory condition, things are looking bad.
Yes, to say the least, as LGD going to keep charging forward. They've got the Baron buff, remember, so lots of good damage here. We always miss this, I feel like, when we see Varus, but still a double AD composition. Will shred through turrets.
Yeah, that said, very easy to itemize against, because obviously you can just stack armor, but unfortunately EDG are just so far behind, this gold lead quickly spiraling out of control towards 10K, that the tank line isn't there yet. No,
I mean, that was the thing about Def getting caught on the wrong side of that fight as well. He had his Frozen Heart ready and just couldn't find the ult on him. And when your Frozen Heart Urgot's not on top of the enemy AD carry, you're going to have a bad time.
And this is where LGD are really going to thrive with this Varus. They're just going to sit and siege. And unfortunately, EDG, the only thing you can do against a poke composition is you have to hard engage. But all it takes is 2-3 arrows because it can pierce through multiple targets.
Yeah, and you can see again, Imp clearing the waves, gets the tower now. That's 5 turrets to 2 now for LGD. We're creeping up towards now 8,000 gold ahead, looking very close to that all-important 10K mark. Acorn clears out a Starter Crab now, looking for the top side as TBQ's even engaging in a little bit of counter jungling. And the deficit, you've mentioned it already, very difficult for EDG to come back. In fact, almost impossible, but not quite so.
They need to start thinking about what are they going to change from game 1 to game 2 and how are they going to really adjust their draft phase. I guarantee that we're going to see a Kalista either priority denial or a ban. This should not be allowed to go through multiple times. Imp has already shown that he is a huge threat. And likewise, if you expend so many of your picks into denial and counter of the Kalista, you pretty much just get run over. There's too many power picks available in the game right now for this type of super denial comp. You have the Ryze, you have the Varus, the Kalista, Echo, Alistar. The fact that Alistar and Nautilus are both in this game is absurd.
Potentially, is LGD going to keep roaming the way around to the top side of the map? LGD certainly looking good with their very nice draft here in this game as the blue buff going to get stolen away here as well. It's the LGD still going through 2 items now for Acorn. 3 items actually for GodV. He's got a luxury Ghost Blade basically on top of that QSS. And Imp already with a Last Whisper to add to that defensive item. Again, if things weren't bad for EDG before, they're just getting worse and worse.
Yeah, this will surely be a free tower. We'll see what EDG look for. If they're going to make a final stand, they need to make it soon.
Yep, going to let this one go at least. 6 towers, not too bad. Base actually not broken yet, so can at least probably afford to wait out that Baron buff. And it seems like it has dropped off LGD now by the looks of things, but Dragon's also another consideration. LGD already have 3. 5 will not be far off in this game.
They're just slowly moving through EDG, taking up every single available resource, eating every single jungle camp, and just choking EDG out.
And this is exactly how LGD like to play League of Legends.
Bleeding people dry.
Yeah, and that's honestly, as we said, a lot of PYL's direction is very rotation heavy, likes to move around, make sure he's got as many resources as possible. It's great when these two teams play because they honestly have such different styles. EDG, very team fight heavy, and LGD, very strategic and macro level focus.
Even if you think about LGD in 2014, before they got their superstar roster, they were always considered the smart team that could kind of outmaneuver the big brute force powerhouses like OMG and Starhorn Royal Club. And with the addition of Acorn, Flame, God v Imp, they've really kind of married both strategy and mechanics.
And it's great to watch here. I mean, this comp especially very much built around more movement as Imp. Just hard pushing in the top side. Amazing Jay. He's got a righteous glory and a frozen heart, and he is rightfully afraid of him.
But this is kind of, you know, what we were talking about. LGD, they're a 10th place team right now as far as the standings are concerned, and they're just ripping through EDG like it's easy. And yes, EDG are slumping. You know, they just had their massive upset by WE2-0ing them, but this is still a top-tier team. And EDG, their standings are not reflective of the talent that they have on the roster and the things that they're actually capable of.
No. I mean, for either of these teams, I think EDG still first, I believe, in the standings. So impressive that they managed to hold on still to the top spot here. Again, a testament to when they have to win, how much they win and how well they did early on. But again, they're mixing things up here. Everyone's thinking about the end of the year now. Worlds is not that far away, honestly, for these teams, despite the fact that the LPL is not even halfway done. And clearly that might be caught out here. Acorn rushing in to try and take him out, but the rest of EDG there to save him.
I mean, after this day, every team will have faced each other once, so we are kind of approaching close to that halfway mark, but this is when you really have to start setting yourself up for your playoff run. Again, only the top 8 spots get a chance in the playoffs, and if you don't make playoffs, you're going into auto-promotion.
Exactly, and then of course, just even outside of the LPL, playoffs looking towards Worlds, these teams, they know what they want. Teams like EDG and LGD are the ones that want to make international marks, despite having great success domestically so far. EDG already won MSI. You know they're thinking about the World Championships as well, but recent form has not been showing, and they are really testing these subs because I think if Amazing Jay and Bamey think these games are hard, they don't know anything yet.
My favorite part is that whenever you ask Deft who the best AD carry in the world is, he always says Imp. And then he stops and he goes, Imp told me to say that. Yep.
And I think Imp says Deft, or does
Imp
he say
says Deft.
Yeah. Cute. PYL, they're golden Alistar. We're going to see if he can hunt someone down. Actually, has a frozen heart. My goodness. That is a luxury item and a half there for Alistar, but just a testament to how ahead they are. Oh yeah, I mean, that's great. I love the distortion boots, especially the distortion movies. As LGD going to get themselves on top of a dragon. EDG, beginning about to come back, it kind of starts with this steal, but again, stealing buffs against Kalista, not recommended and just no hope.
Yeah, just so difficult against that Ren pop right there, but at least trying for it. But again, notice, you know, EDG, they understand we're really far behind. We can't afford to look for a team fight here, so what do we set up to? The only play that's available to us is the steal.
Yeah, and Clearlove was smart there. He basically waited, hoping Imp would make a mistake, and then would jump in if he did. But Imp, very seasoned Kalista player, not going to make those sort of small errors here. But EDG going to have to try and find something. Fate's Call popped. Good double knock-up. Great ulti by TBQ. Bamey just can't fight them off. Def's actually found Imp, but he's Q-assisted. Now going to go in there as he flashes out of the way. Imp just going to collapse on top of him with the rest of his team. PYL's found Bamey. Pops his ulti there. Bamey flashes. And Cassiopeia is going to get away, but that's 3 kills to LGD. What
a beautiful Fate's Call engagement from Kalista, or excuse me, Imp and PYL there. Unfortunately, Clearlove and Mako were standing together, so they got the double knock-up. And LGD, they ran away with this game. They got the team fight. They'll get the Baron, and they'll take the base.
Yeah, just need to break the base here, but not far off from that, despite the death time as being relatively short. LGD going to go back and spend a mountain of gold after that last little exchange, and almost 13,000 gold ahead for LGD. We're going to try and close the game, but not over yet. EDG have lost games from this very position as recently as a week ago.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think back to 2014, EDG, their whole MO was late game team fighting, winning from 10k gold behind, so it's certainly possible. That said, they're missing 2 of their key members, Koro and Pawn there.
And look, I don't think it's unfair to say that Amazing Jay and Bamey are bad players, not at all, but they're just not Pawn and Koro. Even if you just look from a pure experience perspective and think about how much experience those players have with the team compared to the current subs. And I guess that's the reason, again, that they're playing their subs so much. They just want to give them more experience.
More booth time. And it does change the...
Goodbye, Def.
It does change the MO. Obviously, Def just kind of caught out there. the MO and the identity of the team. That said, I find it really curious that Amazing J, kind of filling more of a Koro spot as opposed to an Amazing J type of style. But again, it goes back to the composition. They're just here to counter Kalista. Maokai is the big top lane pick to do that.
I'm going to tell you, Imp does not feel very countered right now.
Even if they get on,
very freed.
Even if they get on top of him and they just delete him from the map, the problem is again, there's just too many other damage threats. But
I don't think Imp cares. Actually dodges the body slam with Marshall Poise. Good ult though coming in, but Imp's already got 1 kill. Amazing J gonna dive in, immediately flashes out. Good 3-man ult from Bamey, but Imp's just running rampant in the front lines. Mako does take up PYL. Bamey is trying to kill Imp, but Godby's already killed Cassio. Amazing J is gonna go down. Varus got a double. Imp's going ballistic. Deft is dead. 4 kills for 1 there for LGD. They're going to break the base finally.
There is nothing EDG can do. LGD snowballed this game too far out of control. I've said it all game. I'll say it again. They really need to rethink their draft phase, and I doubt that we'll see Kalista make it through to Imp's hands again.
Look how aggressive Imp is on this champion. He's going for Mako in the fountain. Might just get it. Oh, not quite enough with the Ren stacks, but will be more than enough to take the game. The Nexus falls. Godby's throwing out arrows to try and snipe people. Imp's going to die in the fountain, and LGD are going to take the victory.
10th place team takes down 1st place team.
What an upset.
What an upset. No, but this is what we're talking about. LG, they're super far down in the standings, but they still consider